Thank you, Concola. I acknowledge the work that Minister Brown is doing in relation to putting together a youth justice strategy. I spoke to a few Garda stations in relation to this, and they acknowledged that it was difficult during COVID, having many meaningful engagements with youths. However, now that sports are back and they're liaising with the likes of the GAA clubs, the schools, the soccer clubs, camogie clubs and other groups outside of sport, they are having conversations and supporting many of the youth groups. I know that the strategy is designed to provide a development framework to address challenges, as well as new and emerging issues in the youth justice area. However, I am concerned that the integration in communities is key to its success. Garda youth divisions projects throughout the country are working well, but difficult to get exact numbers as to how many have been set up and operational. If you can come back to me with the numbers on that, I would appreciate it. In Limerick, we'll use for an example, Kilmallock has seen great success recently with age groups from 12 in the Garda youth projects. They work with all stakeholders so that they ensure that they have the best support for the young people that they work with. There is, however, a massive shortage of youth workers in the Limerick area. The juvenile liaison officer does amazing work for young people who fall into the category of first offence, and they work well with them. Interestingly, all of the Garda stations that I spoke to talk about isolation that many young people feel in their communities, marginalising and exclusion from certain backgrounds. Young people, to be integrated into their communities, will need to be mindful of that. Now, as I was growing up and as other people are growing up, the peers in our communities that we look to, if there was an incident of somebody with first offences or a family that one of their family members got into trouble, the first person they turned to was the Garda. They could speak to them. The Garda was able to relate to them. The Garda knew the person in the community, knew the families, knew everything about them. But within our Garda divisions, a lot of that has been lost because we don't have local people, local Gardaí in our areas. And that goes to resourcing the Gardaí. There's a massive problem at the moment within drugs within a lot of our towns and cities and villages and our rural areas. And we've seen that people are driving around in their big flash cars, they're even setting up businesses and are going under their own businesses, but they're drawing in young people into this, letting them see that it's a life that they can grow in. But that's not a life that you can grow in, because they're constantly going to be watching over their backs. They're doing fierce damage to youth that are trying to get on with an education, whether it's a trade. And it's very hard for them to look at this and seeing them get away with it. And that comes back down to the number of Gardaí that we need on the ground to target this, to make sure that they can see that if you're involved in criminal activity, that you will be dealt with. And then it gives the other person a chance. And we spoke about this earlier on again in other areas, about the discretion of a Garda. The discretion of a Garda in communities is absolutely huge when it comes to first offender. And again, that needs to be looked at, and looked at positively going forward. Thank you, Minister.